wow, I didn't know things got worse than the holiday special. But they do. And it's Plumbers Don't Wear Ties.
Man, I really don't know if it's the worst, but it's really, really, really far down there.
You have to steel yourself for this game when you play it, right? But it's certainly not something you're going to forget.
There is no contemporaries. There is no comparisons. It's just that bad.
Plumbers really is just as bad as everyone says it is. It's garbage. It is a grease fire. It is the worst of all worlds.
This game is always going to be remembered for being what it is, which is this extremely bad example of 1990s full motion video excess.
It was probably always meant to be a campy, weird game. You know, I don't think anyone who was sitting in on those storyboard meetings was like, yes, a beautiful, flawless work of art that will color people's cultural ideas for the future. You know, I mean, it's a campy game. You can have fun with camp, right?
The goofiness factor and the unexpected appearances, like a certain chicken man, it does result in something that's perhaps a little bit more memorable in a really dumb way, right? Like, make no mistake, it's not good, but it's not good in a way that is good.
I'm giving it too much credit, but in a way, I guess you can accidentally say that it is the first American-produced visual novel.
This style of game wasn't actually unheard of at the time, maybe in the US, but that was something that had been explored a lot on the Japanese side, where it was much more about still images, about reading, about audio, sound novels was what they called them in Japan. So in a way, it was almost a little bit ahead of its time, although it probably ended up being that way just because of budgetary constraints, is my guess.
Most of those adult games of the era, they didn't really try. At least what I've seen, by the way. I haven't gone through all of them. Let's make that clear right now. But the ones I've looked at, they tended to be either more like cyber or more serious. And this one was just kind of goofy. But then, some of the other stuff in there, like the abuse from the boss, for instance, it's pretty bad, right?
It is probably not the way we would depict women in very many scenarios today. It treads into some kind of strange and uncomfortable territory sometimes. But the fact that that she had a good time working on this game and that was very comfortable the entire time, it shows just kind of how inherently capitalistic this all was. Like they were just trying to make something that they thought would sell, and and they thought that putting a woman in these kinds of situations could sell, and maybe not a reflection of the moral values of the people involved in the project. I think nowadays, at the very least, there's an entire genre that's just meant to sort of positively portray those kinds of relationships, which is the otome genre. It's visual novels for women, essentially, or at least that's how it started. And this is very popular in Japan, and it's basically just kind of woman-forward romance. Just really kind of sweet. I mean, sometimes goes into raunchier territory, but we have genres that kind of put this stuff into maybe a better context now that we, at least in the United States, didn't really have at the time.
You can go back and play the best games of all time over and over and over, and they're always going to age super well. But 9 times out of 10, the story behind them isn't anywhere near as interesting as these horrible left turns and these train wrecks that we come across.
It's really okay, I think, to take something truly awful and mock it. Look at it and say, this is the worst we ever got to.
People always remember the greatest games of all time. They're always going to remember the worst games of all time as well. Nobody's going to remember a game that was somewhere in the middle. Those are the games that fade into obscurity. But being the best of the worst is almost as good as being the best of the best in terms of being remembered.
It is zany, it is baffling, and it's just... It's Plumbers Don't Wear Ties.